As we get onto the journey, first thing I want to talk about is language, because it's going to be quite tricky, because as we move through the different levels of awakening, through the different, even levels isn't the right thing to say, as we move through our awakening, our realization, the way we look at the world changes, and we realize there's actually no language for what we're trying to talk about. So there will be sort of like a contradiction sometimes. Like if you ask me, who am I? I can say I'm a being of light, which is true. I can say I'm light incarnate living in this planet, but that's not really what you're asking me. Most people are asking from a third dimensional perspective. So there's so many ways to talk about this stuff and so many ways to answer questions. So often we may answer questions on different levels. If you're just beginning, you may want one answer, whereas if you've been working for a longer time, you may want a different answer, and they may seem to contradict. And as we go through, you'll understand more why that is so. But just be aware that as you hear things, they may seem different from time to time. The other thing, there are no absolutes in this. It's all variable. And as I said, everything has different meanings. If we talk about male and female, at sometimes we might be talking about the gender male and female. Other times we might be talking about the male energies that we all have. Other times we may be talking about it spiritually. So there are many different levels. When we talk about the levels of awakening, we think of levels and stages as being linear. Well, they're not really linear. We need to talk about them in that way so that our brains can grasp what we're talking about, but know that you're not at the beginning stage, and you're not on stage 3, and you're not on stage 5, and I'm not no higher on stage whatever. We're all doing our stuff, and it's all intermingled, and it comes and it goes. There'll be weeks when we're on cloud 9, and it's like, whoa, we're ascended, this is heaven. And then the next day, it's like we're, World War III is starting. And that's how it goes, and it has to go that way, because every time we reach to a certain energy, everything that cannot exist at that energy has to clear. And so everything comes out. So you're on a high, and then the next moment it's like, whether it's in a partnership or whether it's just in work or wherever it is, you will get this frustration, this anger. Whatever needs to come out will come out, and you go crashing down again, and you work your way back up. And so it's this, but we're going up all the time. And you spend time when you work on something and you think, I've got that sorted. And 6 months later, you're right back again. It seems like you're right back, but you're not. You're working at it at a different level. You've gone deeper, you're digging deeper to get to our core emotions that need to be worked out. So it's this up and down, in and out thing that we weave. So as we're talking, we will sort of talk as if you're at stage 1, you're at stage 2, but know that it isn't like that. Don't try to put yourself in any place, because you never are. Today you are here, tomorrow you're here, the next day you're up here. Make sense? So let's talk about awakening. The way that I see it, before we go to talk about that, there's only one mountaintop as I see it. There's only one thing that we're striving for, and that's living as love. That's it. Being our authentic self and living in the moment as love. That's the top of the mountain. What's confusing is that there's a gazillion ways to get there, and everyone has their own way. And luckily we're coming out of that now, but we were in an era where people wanted to be gurus. And so my way was the right way. My way was the only way. And so you would get stuck going to this person, that was the right way, and you get stuck to this person, no, this is the right way. And it argue as to which is the right way. They're all the right way. What comes to me is going to be different to what comes to you, because it comes through our own persona. So what you look for is someone who speaks your language, who's in your tribe. The only difference from what I always say is that you're going to understand it. I go to some podcasts and I listen to them and go, what are they talking about? Because they're just not speaking my language. They may be, for example, gatekeepers. I understand what they're doing, but that's not why I'm on earth. And when they talk about going to the gates and opening this gate and doing this, it's like, I have no interest in it. They're not my tribe. Doesn't make it wrong. And that's part of our ascension. There is no wrong. It's just different. So if you're here, more than likely, we're of the same tribe and we're talking the same language. But anything that I say isn't an absolute, and that doesn't make anything else wrong that you've heard. So from where I come from, there's two sides to awakening. There's awakening to the game, and there's awakening of our soul. Now, awakening to the game is ending the 3D game that we're in. It's understanding about all the conspiracy theories and all that stuff that you've heard about. Understanding what that is, understanding why it's there, understanding to what extent it's there. It's all the matrix stuff, which really does exist. Again, how deep down the rabbit hole and how much you want to believe, that's entirely up to you. The other element of awakening to the soul, really renders the first element obsolete. I think it's important to have an idea of what's going on, what has been going on, and what we're leaving, but really don't get caught up in it, because once we actually make the shift, it's obsolete. Not only that, once we realize that if you believe in reincarnation, we have played every single part of the game possible. We've been the good guys, we've been the bad guys, we've been the ones who've been abused, we've been the ones doing the abusing. We've done it all. We've come back and we've learned. Our mission was to learn every aspect of all that is. And we've done it. The game is over because we've done it all. And you can just see it in music and movies. All they're doing is doing remakes. There's nothing to make. We have done it. The way that I explain it, I used to run a group for kids, sort of an awakening group for the indigo kids. And I'd say if you take a plank and you put it on a piano and you press it down, at that moment you've played every single piece of music that you can play. As you press down all the notes, the possibility of every piece of music, anything you can possibly do on that piano is done. And that's all that is. That is source. But at the same time, when you do that, you haven't actually heard a piece of music. You haven't experienced a symphony. You haven't experienced a kid banging on the keys. You haven't experienced jazz. You haven't experienced anything that could be done on the piano. You've experienced it all, but at the same time, nothing. And what we're here to do is to experience the piano, to dig down and learn jazz, learn classical, learn the blues, experience a kid who can't play and just bangs on the keys, experience the learner who plays the bum notes. Everything possible is what we're here to do, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So that's why we've left Source, to come and experience, and we experience everything. So when we sit in the world that we are now, we think of the good guys and the bad guys. So when you look at a movie like Thrive, you go, oh, there's the bad guys and they're out to, we're the victims. But when we actually get to the awakening of the soul, we realize that's just a game. And we've come as the bad guys too. And you see it with children. They play cops and robbers, cowboys and Indians, and the baddie is being as bad as they possibly can be, and the good guy is being as good as they possibly can be, and then they finish the game and they hug each other and they go away, and the next day they swap over. And that's what we're doing. As spiritual angelic beings, we come down and go, okay, you're going to be the bad guy, I'm going to be the good guy. And you're going to come and you're going to get in between the fight. And then we do that, and we go back, that was great, we're going to do it next time. Basically, that's what we're doing. And the whole aspect of time and everything that we experience here is not the same in the other realms. So people talk about the illusion, you think, well, is it just an illusion? And they'll say, oh, it's just an illusion, don't worry, there's no pain. Well, yeah, there is pain, because we've come to experience pain. In that moment, there's a lot of pain, or a lot of joy, or a lot of sorrow, or a lot of whatever, because that's what we've come to experience. It's an illusion in that when we move to the next dimension, no longer exists, and that it comes and it goes, but in that moment, it is real. So there's where we start to get funny with the language, because it's both real and an illusion at the same time. Does that make sense?